Hi, this is Steve Lipsher with Lake Dillon Fire, and I'm here with Lathan Johnson with the U.S. Forest Service. And we're talking about all of these piles of logs that we have throughout Summit County and what is being done with them.
Thanks, Steve. These piles are a result of the mountain pine beetle epidemic that's struck really most of the forests in Colorado. And really the bottom line is we're trying to reduce the potential impact from the mountain pine beetle, both from a wildfire standpoint, and also we're trying to treat the forest so it'll regenerate itself. That's a big thing with the Forest Service, and we're trying to make sure that we're managing these forests for future generations. So the piles you see behind me, once we burn them, that'll set the stage for bringing in younger trees into there and creating a new forest, if you would.
And the goal is to eliminate the fuel in case we have a wildfire here and try to protect some of our developed areas?
That's it. Well, the treatments not only eliminate the fuels, but also that these forests need some kind of disturbance to regenerate them. So really what we're doing here is we're doing a treatment in the forest to help rejuvenate the forest into a younger forest again. But really the big thing that we have is we have a lot of these areas like this behind me that are really, really steep and hard to access. And in those areas, instead of being able to haul all the material off, we have to leave some piles that we're going to come back and burn later.
So here we are between Frisco and Breckenridge, and at some point here in the next few weeks probably we're going to see a lot of these piles being torched.
Yeah, what we're doing is we're pile burning a lot of these areas that, again, we can't access to pull the timber out of the woods and use it. A lot of places in the county we've been able to haul the stuff off to the biomass plant. There's some active operations going on in the northern part. But right here you can tell how steep that is, and really we can't get that off the hill. So we'll leave it in place. We wait till there's conditions like right now where there's snow on the ground. There's no chance whatsoever for those fires to spread out of there. So we'll basically make a bunch of bonfires on the hill there. But there's a bunch of coordination that goes into that whole operation.
Sure. So what are we talking about? Hundreds, thousands of piles?
A rough estimate of what we have in the county is about 13,000 piles. And the biggest concentration here is along the Swan River, going up Revitt Road and over into Tiger Road and on up. But there is some piles that we've been working on up around Breckenridge and the Peak 7 area, and then there's also some piles over kind of on the north side of Keystone and on the east side of Keystone.
Very good. Who's doing the burning?
The burning's being done by U.S. Forest Service wildland firefighters. It's the same crews that respond to wildfires during the summer. Every burn's staffed by a Type 3 burn boss that goes through a burn plan and a checklist and follows, stuff like air quality. We want to make sure that we're not affecting the air quality or affecting as little as possible. And one of those things is we're working really closely with the National Weather Service, and we get a dispersion forecast from them every day and try to make sure that we're getting the smoke up and out. We get permitted by the state of Colorado, the Air Pollution Control Division, and part of those permits is making sure that we're paying attention to the weather and trying to make sure that we're not laying too much smoke into these heavily populated areas.
So on any one day, it could be weather conditions allow it or don't allow it. If we've got a temperature inversion, you're probably not going to be able to burn at that time.
Yeah, that's correct. I mean, a lot of that's based on how far the piles are from structures. And as you can see right here, I mean, it's right behind these residences here. So, we want wind, we want to be able to get the smoke up and out. The best time to be burning these is when we actually have a big snowstorm blowing in, because it mixes all that air down and gets it up and out of the county.
And you mentioned that with the burn bosses and the fire crews and everything, this is safe. We're not going to...
Yeah, really, when it boils down to talking about fire behavior in a wildland fire environment, when you have snow on the ground, there's really no way for that fire to spread. Everything's, covered that carries that fire. And really, it's not going to carry treetop to treetop in wintertime conditions. The relative humidities are higher, the temperature's higher. Just you could put a log 5 feet away from one of those piles and it won't catch fire. So that's one thing we really want to emphasize to the public during this operation, is that because of the snow and because of the wintertime conditions, that's why we're doing it this time of year. There's really no chance of these spreading outside the circle of the fire.
Now, when you light these on fire, you're there attending them throughout the day, but at some point you actually do leave them and they're still burning. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's one of the things that we want to also emphasize to folks is that, you know, during the main flaming stage is they're burning. These piles right here on this hillside, they're roughly, you know, 200 to 300 cubic feet. You know, standard pile size in the county is probably about 8 by 5 or so, and it takes several hours for that pile to burn down. So during the most active flaming stage, you know, our folks will be out here, but as they burn down, you know, they're perfectly safe and they're just going to burn down overnight. And you know, by 5 o'clock in the evening, if we lit those here about noon, they'd all be looking like little campfires, and there'd be little glows and little flames up there on the hill. But again, it's not moving anywhere, and even at night time's even less potential for it to want to move around.
Sure. So there's no need for anyone to panic. No need to call 911 after you see the fire still burning into the darkness.
No, and that's one of the things to really bring up and why we're doing this this public service announcement is we want the public to understand that even though they're still flaming, you know, we work really closely with the fire departments to make sure they're not responding, and we don't want to, you know, jam up the 911 system with a bunch of unnecessary calls about pile burning. We've been trying to get the info out on Summit County alerts, any days that we're burning piles and where we're burning. And we're just really trying to do a big outreach campaign. We actually canvassed this neighborhood the other day doing door hangers and just trying all methods we can to get the word out that, yeah, we're pile burning, there's going to be smoke, there's going to be fire, but there's really no threat to folks' home from the fire.
Excellent. One of the things that we talked about here is, you know, you've got this pine beetle outbreak that has devastated, you know, millions of trees in Summit County, and it actually threatens our community with the wildfire potential. So what's at risk in Summit County that we're worried about that we need to go to these measures?
You know, really, if you think about the mechanics of it, you had a bunch of live trees and you have a bunch of dead trees. And anytime there's a bug epidemic of the proportion of this, usually it's followed by fire. That's natural. That's nature's natural cycle of you have a bug epidemic, then there's wildfires afterwards. So, you know, that the whole county's really built within a forest. I mean, that's why everybody wants to live here, but at the same time, it's one of those things where this is where you really have to pay attention to wildfires during the summer. So we're trying to lessen that threat.
So we have, among other things in Summit County, you know, obviously a recreation-based community that could be badly damaged by a wildfire. We've got millions of dollars worth of property, developed property. We've got infrastructure here. We've got the Dillon Reservoir. We've got interstate. We've got power corridors. All those things are the types of things that we're trying to help withstand the possibility of a wildfire. Is that right?
Yeah, no, I think that's exactly it. I mean, you look at the values at risk in Summit County, and they're huge. I mean, just the potential of having a major wildfire would have huge economic effects. So, you know, the Forest Service doing this type of work is one of the things where we're trying to be proactive and get out in front of the wildfire risk and versus the day of the fire trying to do that, because it really is hard. I mean, once a wildfire starts in the right year, it can be devastating.
Sure, and we've become all too familiar with that in Colorado. We've had some monstrous fires in the last decade or so, and I think that's probably made your job in some ways a little bit easier. People are more receptive to seeing this kind of work being done.
Yeah, you know, I think that a lot of folks do understand that, you know, a little bit of prevention now is going to help a whole lot later down the road. You know, we are impacting the community with the smoke that we have, but, you know, the smoke that comes off these piles for a few days is going to be a heck of a lot less than if we had a major wildfire event and had, you know, smoke in here for weeks during a major wildfire event.
Very good. What else do people need to know about these efforts? How long are they going to be going on, do you think?
You know, a lot of it's going to depend on the weather windows we have. You know, if we can get a lot of that good smoke dispersion, you know, we could get done with it here by the end of February. But you know, more than likely, it's going to be something that might last part of this winter and into next winter. You know, it really just depends on the amount of piles that we can get done and out of the way. And, you know, every place that we can, we're hauling stuff off to the biomass plant or selling it as timber sales, but there's just a lot of these steep areas that aren't accessible that we can't do that.
Great. So I think it's reassuring also that you public land managers are doing things to build these buffers around developed areas, communities on a large scale, landscape scale, but it doesn't absolve the local homeowners of their responsibilities to build defensible space, use fire-wise construction, things along those lines as well.
Yeah, you know, really a big driver in this effort that the Forest Service is doing is the Community Wildfire Protection Plan that Summit County has. And really I think it should be everybody's goal, whether it's the feds or, you know, anybody involved in land management, including the homeowners, is try to make these areas as defensible as possible from wildfire. It makes our jobs a lot easier as firefighters when the actual fires come.
So for more information, we'd like people in Summit County to sign up for SC Alert. That's scalert.org, and you can go and get free text messages and email messages, which will alert you as to when they're going to be burning, as well as a number of other important bits of information that we disseminate that way. And then where else can they go for information from you?
For more information, there's a White River Forest Twitter account that also has been putting down what days we're burning, and also the White River Forest webpage is another good source of information. And you can even call the Dillon Ranger District if you need to, but please, whatever you do, don't call 911, that's for emergency.
Very good. Well, this is Steve Lipsher with Lake Dillon Fire, and I've been talking with Lathan Johnson of the U.S. Forest Service. Really appreciate your time and helping all of our people understand what's been going on here.
Thank you very much, Steve.
You bet.